Let's talk a little bit about lighting for microgreens. And this probably applies to a lot of indoor plants, but I'm going to be specific about microgreens because that's what I do the most growing of. And get a lot of questions about people that are curious about lighting. I show a lot of different lights that I try out and everything, so there's probably a little bit of confusion out there on like what I recommend, what do I think is a good lighting for microgreens. So in this video, I'm going to clear some of that up. I'm going to explain the difference between what I'm experimenting with versus what is tried and true and I know for sure works good. But even though I have lights that work good, I'm always experimenting. I'm always trying out new stuff. It's interesting to me to see if you can find a less expensive light that works just as good as a more expensive light, or a light that takes a lot less energy to run maybe working as good as one that takes a lot of energy to run. So that's kind of why I do those experiments. It's just to see, you know, can you push the boundaries of cost going into the light versus output coming out in your microgreen production. And also how your microgreens look, and how full and lush they are, how quickly they grow, things like that. So just going to jump right into this and I'll cover some of the basics of lights. I'm not going to get into all the PAR factors, PAR. I can't even remember what that stands for. Some people on YouTube throw that right out real easy. I don't know. I will just mention color spectrum because that's easy for me. I know that that's not the best measurement of light for growing, but it's a pretty good benchmark. Knowing whether or not you're really blue or really red, it is a pretty good measure of light on whether or not you're going to grow very well. So let's dive in. First, let's go with the tried and true. These are T8s. There's two of them in there. They're in a shop light. That's a 4-foot long light from Home Depot. It was very inexpensive. I can't remember how much it was, but it didn't come with bulbs. You had to buy your own bulbs. But these work great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They just work. You can see how everything's nice and lush. And this tray in particular, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but discovered something that works really good for me on that. So anyways, that's the tried and true. You can see how nice everything looks that's under it. Really nice. Full tray of amaranth. These are 6500 K or Kelvin on the color spectrum, so they're very blue. They're daylight bulbs. Some radishes, more radishes. So I've got these lights everywhere. That's a tray of cilantro I kind of screwed up on. I unstacked it too soon, and so I didn't get enough of the holes to come off, so that's going to be a nightmare. Luckily, no one's asking for that right now. So that's it for that. Now, actually, this will be here. Sorry about that. These are T5s. Okay? And they're also, I believe, they're 6500K. So they're a T5 fluorescent instead of a T8. These are made for growing. These are actual grow lights. And quite honestly, I kind of like the T8s a little bit better. Just in my experience, they work just as good, if not better. These are made by, they're horticultural lightings by Envirogrow. They work good, but they're expensive. That fixture was like $89, something like that. So they work good enough, but I wouldn't recommend them. It's not, I mean, here's another one here. Same thing, but this one's got 4 bulbs in it. One of them's out at the moment. They work good, but you don't need them. You can go with those T8s and they'll do just as good of a job for you. Here's another one. Stuff growing under this T5 as well. I have a bunch of these because I started doing indoor hydroponic growing about 2 or 3 years ago. That's what got me interested in the microgreens. So went to my local hydroponic store and picked up some of these, and they did the trick. They work great. They grew lettuce and things like that, and they were good. But that's not the way to go. If I was just starting out growing microgreens, I'd go with these T8s. Energy consumption is very similar, not a big difference. So let's go on over to these lights. This is what people ask me a lot about. These are tape lights. They're actual grow lights. They're made for growing. And they work, but they don't work good enough for me. They were like $22 for, geez, I want to say, was it 20 feet? 15 feet? Something like that. You can go look in my prior videos and I talk about that. But you have to actually kind of build a fixture or something with those. They run on a 12 volt brick power supply, and they work okay. I'm just not thrilled with them. I mean, I just don't know if I really want to put in the effort to build an actual fixture. I was gonna put these. I bought some little C channels that these can go into, and then I could hang them down where I want, closer to the plant. But I mean, I never really expected them to work that good because there's a lot of red. And when you're growing microgreens, you want to be more blue. And so maybe these work good if you're trying to get something to fruit and flower, but they're just not that great. I've actually been using them as a spot to slow down my growth. So this sunflower here, I kind of messed up a little bit and when I planted it, and I didn't really want to harvest it yet, so I put them over here and was like, hey, they'll slow down under these lights, and they have. And I wanted to harvest those tonight, but they're going to have to wait till tomorrow because I had to water them pretty heavy tonight. They were getting a little droopy. Now these are LED lights, and they're from Home Depot, and I talked about those in an earlier video. They were $13 a piece. They're 4K, so they're 4,000 Kelvin. And they work great. Excuse me. They work great with certain fallbacks. So what they will do is the plants don't really want to grow very tall. That red color in the spectrum seems to kind of keep them down. But I'm finding that to be a huge benefit for certain crops. This is my my mix I get from True Leaf Market. It's that spicy blend: cabbage, arugula, kohlrabi, broccoli. And what I find with this stuff is sometimes something like the arugula will want to shoot up, and then something else like the cabbage or whatever will get kind of, be down low and not really get to be, even with the rest of the plants. And so what I've discovered is that I can put them under these lights for a week or whatever, about a week. Then when I'm getting ready to harvest, I'll have a nice even bed. I mean, they grow really nice and even, and I get really good germination under these lights. For whatever didn't germinate very good when they were stacked. And things will just really be nice and even, and it holds them down, which I like. So they'll grow nice and even. I say even enough. What I ended up doing is I discovered about 2 days before I'm ready to harvest, which these ones are ready to harvest, kind of wanted to go a little bit longer with them. I would have liked to have left them under those other lights for another few days. I move them under these lights, these T8s, 6500, and that really makes them kind of pop. And see how nice and lush this tray is and how full it is? So from being underneath those other lights, it kind of kept them a nice, even growth. Then I brought them over here for them to kind of pop a little. They just kind of really came into it. So that works out really great. So what I'm getting to here, if you're curious about different grow lights, try them, all right? Now, what I recommend, though, is if you're new to growing microgreens, go with the shop lights, the T8s, get them in 6500K light spectrum, and give them a shot. Because if you're just starting out, you really don't want to be questioning, if you're having trouble, is it the lights? And I can tell you that if you go with those shop lights, the lights are not going to be your problem. If something's going wrong, you're having a problem with something else, and it's not the lights. And then if you have those lights, now you can start experimenting, because you can start buying other cheap lights and buying different things and trying them, and using those T8s as your benchmark. T5s are really popular in the indoor growing world, and they work great. But like I said, you don't need to spend that kind of money. The T8s work just great. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope it answers some questions. And if anybody has more questions, let me know. I'll be glad to help you out. I do the best I can. I'm not, like I said, I don't know all the different ins and outs of all the different spectrums, but I do know what works, and the T8s work great. The LEDs are working good for me for the way I'm using them, where I'm growing under them for a few days and then moving them over to the other lights. That seems to be working awesome. Maybe they'd work just as good if I use those LED shop lights and maybe ran them for less of a duty cycle, because currently I'm running everything 24 hours a day. You don't have to do that. I've done 12 hours a day and things are fine. Part of the reason I'm doing that is somewhat laziness on my part. I have timers, and I just never got around to hooking them up in here. And honestly, 24 hours a day, you just get a little bit faster growth anyways. And so it's not really a big concern, but you are using a little more electricity. So thanks for watching this, guys. Really appreciate you guys out there. Please like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends that want to know something about microgreen lights. And yeah, thanks.